Okay, so a massive new romance rumor is hitting the Kardashian universe, and this one is a big one. People are saying that Kim Kardashian is secretly dating Formula One superstar Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to dive right into this whole story because it's got everything. Secret trips, a really awkward family connection, and maybe the hand of a master puppeteer pulling the strings behind the scenes. And that brings us to the first big question. Is Kim's new man maybe a little too close for comfort? Because you might remember, this isn't the first time Lewis Hamilton has been connected to one of the sisters, which just adds this whole other layer of drama to the situation. So how did this story even get out? Well, it seems like they were trying to keep things under wraps, but, a romantic trip across Europe is kind of hard to hide. Let's break down exactly what went down. What's so wild about this is just how low-key they were trying to be. It all started in the English countryside at this super fancy hotel. Lewis apparently showed up in a helicopter. An insider says they had a couples massage, a private dinner, the whole 9 yards. Then they were off to London, and then they hopped on a private jet to Paris. I mean, come on, you don't do a multi-country trip like that unless things are getting pretty serious. All right, now we get to the part of the story that makes everyone go, The big complication here is that before there was a Kim and Lewis, there were whispers about a connection between Lewis Hamilton and Kim's younger sister, Kendall Jenner. Yeah, and the context here is absolutely crucial. See, back in 2015, when Lewis and Kendall were hanging out, he was already in his 30s, and she was basically still a teenager. We're talking an 11-year age gap. That little bit of history makes this new thing with Kim, well, let's just say it's more than a little awkward. And this quote just perfectly captures the cringe, doesn't it? This is what Lewis actually said back in the day about Kendall. He was praising her for being very focused and level-headed, and then he drops this line, very grown up for a young woman. Looking back, that comment really hits different now that he's with her older sister. So, as you can imagine, the second this news broke, the internet just exploded, and the reactions are completely split down the middle. Some people are totally here for it, and others are really, really not. So on one side, you have the fans who absolutely love this pairing. They're looking at two super successful, ambitious people and thinking, yeah, that makes perfect sense. They see a new power couple in the making. But then you have the skeptics. This person points out a pretty big contradiction. Lewis is famous for being a really passionate vegan and an environmentalist, but he's also flying around in helicopters and private jets with Kim. It's giving some people major Leonardo DiCaprio vibes, if you know what I mean. Other people are looking at this and questioning his judgment in general. This comment brings up his friendships with people like Elon Musk, and they're suggesting there's a pattern of him hanging out with questionable people. And for them, Kim just fits right into that pattern. And of course, people started digging up his past controversies. This comment is about that infamous video from years ago. Now, he did apologize for it, but for some people, you just can't unsee that. It makes them question his whole character and, in their words, see him as a bad person. But with any big Kardashian news, there's always one question you have to ask. What does Kris Jenner have to do with this? And in this case, there's a pretty juicy theory that she's the one who actually set this whole thing up from the very beginning. So, is this all just part of Kris's grand plan? Did she look at Lewis Hamilton and think, he'd be perfect for one of my daughters? Or is this just a total coincidence? Well, there's actually some evidence that points to her being very involved. Okay, let's break down the evidence here. First of all, Kris Jenner follows almost nobody on Instagram, but Lewis is one of the lucky few. But here's the real kicker. Insiders back in 2015 said Kris really wanted Kendall to date him. She thought he'd be a good influence. So you have to wonder, if it didn't work out for Kendall, why not for Kim? He's rich, he gets a ton of press. I mean, for the ultimate momager, that's a perfect match. And honestly, this whole family overlap thing, it's not exactly new territory for Kim. If you take a look at who she's dated recently, you start to see a very clear pattern. I mean, just look at this. There was Odell Beckham Jr., who was first linked to her sister Khloe. Then there's Drake, who supposedly had a thing with her sister Kylie. What's really interesting is that one of the guys she publicly went after, Tom Brady, had zero ties to her family. It's almost like she tried to break the habit, but has now fallen right back into the old pattern. So what does this all boil down to? What are we really looking at here? Is this a genuine secret love affair between two global icons who've actually found a real spark? Or is this just a perfectly executed PR stunt designed to keep them both in the headlines, with the queen of media, Kris Jenner, pulling every single string? That right there is the big question.